Which one owns you? You think you know yourself. You think you're in control, but there's a force inside you that operates without permission. A shadow. And that shadow has a face. Maybe it's the narcissist, desperate for approval, performing for mirrors, collapsing when ignored. Maybe it's the Machiavellian, cold, calculating, building traps years in advance. Or maybe it's the psychopath, detached, ruthless, operating beyond guilt and fear. Most men spend their entire lives blind to which archetype runs their psychology. They react without awareness. They justify without understanding. They repeat patterns and wonder why nothing changes. But here's the truth. You can't escape your shadow. You can only see it. And once you see it, everything shifts. This isn't about morality. This isn't about being good or bad. This is about power, real power. The kind that doesn't come from dominating others. It comes from dominating yourself. The narcissist is trapped by his need for validation. The Machiavellian is trapped by his need for control. The psychopath is trapped by his detachment from consequence. But the awakened man, he sees all three. He commands all three. And that makes him the most dangerous type of all. Not because he's cruel, because he's conscious. And consciousness is the only weapon that can't be disarmed. So ask yourself, which shadow owns you? Because once you know the answer, you have a choice. Let it run you, or take command. The triad has been activated, and there's no going back. You think you know yourself. You think the face you see in the mirror is the real one. But beneath the surface, there's something older, something darker. A shadow that imitates power without your permission. Most people walk through life blind to this. They react, they survive, they adapt. But they never ask the real question. Which archetype owns you? The narcissist craves approval like oxygen. The Machiavellian manipulates reality like a chess master. The psychopath operates beyond emotion, beyond consequence, beyond fear. These aren't fairy tales. These are psychological blueprints embedded in human behavior. And one of them is already running your survival instinct. You've seen it in moments of weakness, when you needed validation from someone who didn't deserve your respect. When you calculated a conversation 3 steps ahead just to maintain control. When you felt nothing while watching someone fall apart in front of you. Those weren't accidents. Those were glimpses of the triad. Power doesn't live in your intentions. It lives in your patterns. The narcissist builds his identity on mirrors. The Machiavellian builds his on strategy. The psychopath doesn't build at all. He dominates. Each one operates from a different hunger. Each one believes it's the strongest. But only one owns you. Most men spend their entire lives unaware of this inner war. They blame their failures on circumstances, on other people, on bad luck. They never stop to recognize that their shadow has been making decisions for them. Approval seeking isn't just insecurity, it's narcissism in disguise. Strategic manipulation isn't intelligence, it's Machiavellianism wearing a mask of fairness. Ruthless detachment isn't strength, it's the psychopath whispering survival at any cost. You don't choose these archetypes consciously. They choose you based on how you were wounded, how you were taught to protect yourself, how you learned to survive. And survival creates patterns. Patterns create identity. Identity creates your entire reality. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't escape the triad. It's wired into human psychology, into dominance hierarchies, into the mechanisms of control and fear. The narcissist manipulates emotion. The Machiavellian manipulates perception. The psychopath manipulates consequence. Each one serves a function. Each one has power. But the man who refuses to see his own shadow becomes a puppet to it. He thinks he's free, but he's operating on autopilot. He thinks he's making choices, but his choices are just echoes of whichever archetype owns him. The real question isn't whether you have a shadow. The question is, do you control it, or does it control you? Understanding the triad isn't about morality. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing which psychological force dominates your decision-making when pressure hits. Most people avoid this work because it's easier to believe they're good, balanced, rational. But psychology doesn't care about your self-image. It cares about patterns, and patterns reveal the truth you've been avoiding. The narcissist thrives on external validation. The Machiavellian thrives on calculated dominance. The psychopath thrives on raw power without attachment. You might think you're none of these, but watch yourself closely in moments of rejection, moments of threat, moments where control slips. That's when the mask falls. That's when you see which archetype has been running the show. Most men walk through life convinced they understand themselves. They believe they know why they act, why they choose, why they react. But that belief is built on a foundation of blindness. They see the surface, their conscious intentions, their moral justifications, their self-constructed narratives. They don't see the machinery beneath. They don't see the archetype pulling the strings. The narcissist thinks he's confident. The Machiavellian thinks he's strategic. The psychopath thinks he's strong. None of them see the truth. They're not in control. They're being controlled by patterns forged in survival, shaped by wounds, and reinforced by every moment they refuse to look deeper. This blindness isn't accidental. It's a defense mechanism. The mind protects itself from uncomfortable truths by creating stories that feel better than reality. A man seeks approval from people he doesn't respect, and he tells himself it's politeness. A man manipulates a situation to maintain dominance, and he calls it leadership. A man cuts off emotion to avoid vulnerability, and he labels it discipline. These aren't lies, they're survival narratives. But survival narratives aren't truth. They're psychological camouflage. And the longer you wear the mask, the more you forget there's a face underneath. That's the trap. You become the role. You become the archetype. And you never question it because questioning it would shatter the identity you've spent years building. The problem with blindness is that it doesn't just hide the archetype from you, it hides the consequences. The narcissist destroys relationships without realizing he's the common denominator. The Machiavellian alienates people without understanding why no one trusts him. The psychopath burns bridges and wonders why he ends up isolated. They all believe they're acting rationally. They all believe their behavior is justified. But justification isn't the same as awareness. You can justify anything if you're blind to the pattern driving it. And most men are blind. Not because they lack intelligence, but because intelligence doesn't protect you from your shadow. It just makes you better at rationalizing it. Here's what separates the blind from the aware. The blind react. The aware observe. When rejection hits, the blind man either chases approval or withdraws into coldness. When power is threatened, the blind man either manipulates aggressively or shuts down emotionally. He doesn't see the pattern. He just feels the emotion and acts on instinct. But instinct isn't wisdom. Instinct is the shadow operating without supervision. The narcissist's instinct says, make them see you. The Machiavellian's instinct says, control the outcome. The psychopath's instinct says, eliminate the weakness. None of these are conscious choices. They're automated responses. And automated responses run your life when you refuse to see them. Most men will spend decades operating from one of these archetypes without ever naming it. They'll chase respect, but never feel respected. They'll strategize control, but never feel secure. They'll detach from emotion, but never feel powerful. And they'll blame the world for it. They'll blame other people for not recognizing their worth. They'll blame circumstances for not aligning with their plans. They'll blame weakness for making them feel vulnerable. But the real problem isn't external, it's internal. It's the refusal to confront which archetype owns their psychology. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you have to decide, do you let it run you, or do you take command? That decision separates men who survive from men who dominate their own minds. You've been trained to need reflection. From childhood, you learn that your worth comes from how others see you. Good grades earned praise. Bad behavior earned punishment. Your value wasn't internal. It was measured by external response. That's where the trap begins. The narcissist isn't born. He's built. Built by a world that taught him his identity exists in other people's eyes. So he spends his life chasing mirrors. He needs to be seen, admired, validated. Without that reflection, he feels like he doesn't exist. This isn't vanity, it's survival psychology. The narcissist believes that if people stop looking at him, he disappears. And that fear drives everything. The mirror trap operates through a simple mechanism. You perform, and the world responds. When the response is positive, you feel powerful. When it's negative, you feel destroyed. But here's the problem. You're not controlling the game. You're reacting to it. Every decision you make is shaped by how you think others will perceive it. You don't dress for yourself. You dress for approval. You don't speak your truth. You speak what maintains your image. You don't choose relationships based on connection. You choose them based on how they make you look. The narcissist doesn't live in reality. He lives in a hall of mirrors, and every reflection tells him who he is. But mirrors lie. They show you what you want to see, not what's actually there. I've watched men destroy themselves chasing validation from people who didn't matter. They built entire identities around careers they hated because those careers impressed strangers. They stayed in relationships that drained them because leaving would damage their image. They performed strength while drowning in insecurity. And the worst part, they never realized they were trapped. They thought they were winning. They thought respect and admiration meant power, but respect from others isn't power, it's dependence. The moment you need someone to see you a certain way, you've handed them control, and the narcissist hands control to everyone, then wonders why he feels powerless. The trap tightens when you start believing the reflection is real. You convince yourself that the admiration you receive defines your worth. You think the praise means you've made it, but praise is conditional. It comes and goes based on performance, and performance is exhausting. The narcissist performs constantly. He's always on stage, always managing perception, always calculating how to appear dominant, confident, successful. But beneath the performance, there's nothing. No core. No identity separate from the audience. That's why rejection destroys him. It's not just an insult, it's an existential threat. If people stop validating him, he has no proof he exists. So he chases harder. He performs louder. He needs the mirror to keep reflecting, because without it, he's staring into a void. Here's the brutal truth. The narcissist never owns himself. He's owned by everyone who looks at him. His mood depends on their reaction. His confidence depends on their approval. His sense of power depends on their fear or admiration. He thinks he's in control because people respond to him. But response isn't control, it's dependence dressed up as dominance. The man who needs to be seen is the man who can be manipulated. All you have to do is withhold approval, and he'll bend. All you have to do is ignore him, and he'll chase. The narcissist believes the mirror gives him power, but the mirror is the cage, and most men live their entire lives inside it without realizing they're trapped. The narcissist tells himself he loves himself. He believes his obsession with image is confidence. He believes his need for admiration is self-worth. But that's the lie. The narcissist doesn't love himself. He needs to be loved. There's a difference. Love is internal. Need is external. The man who loves himself doesn't require validation. He doesn't collapse when criticized. He doesn't perform for approval. But the narcissist does all of these things. And he does them because, deep down, he feels empty. The mirror doesn't reflect love. It reflects desperation. And desperation wears the mask of confidence so convincingly that even the narcissist believes it. This lie operates on a simple inversion. The narcissist projects strength to hide weakness. He talks loudly because silence terrifies him. He dominates conversations because being forgotten feels like death. He demands attention because without it, he has no proof of his existence. This isn't power. This is survival disguised as dominance. The narcissist's entire personality is built around compensating for a void he refuses to acknowledge. He can't sit alone without discomfort. He can't exist without an audience. He can't feel valuable unless someone else confirms it. And that dependency destroys him from the inside out, because no amount of external love fills an internal emptiness. I've seen this play out in men who appeared untouchable. Successful careers, attractive partners, social influence. From the outside, they had everything, but in private moments, they were falling apart. One comment from the wrong person, and their entire self-image shattered. One rejection, and they spiraled into rage or depression. They couldn't handle criticism because criticism felt like annihilation. They couldn't accept failure because failure meant they weren't who they pretended to be. The narcissist's confidence is fragile. It's built on sand. And the moment the tide of approval shifts, the entire structure collapses. That's the cost of living in the mirror. You become dependent on something you can't control, other people's perception. The lie deepens when the narcissist convinces himself he's above emotion. He believes his obsession with image is rational, strategic, calculated. But it's not. It's fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being invisible, fear of being unloved. So he overcompensates. He performs grandiosity to cover inadequacy. He seeks admiration to silence the voice inside that tells him he's not enough. And the more he chases, the more he proves the lie. Because a man who truly values himself doesn't need constant confirmation. He doesn't require applause. He doesn't collapse when someone walks away. But the narcissist does. Every single time. And he blames everyone else for it. Here's what the narcissist will never admit. He's terrified of himself. He's terrified of sitting in silence and confronting the void. He's terrified of stripping away the performance and seeing what's left. Because deep down, he suspects there's nothing. No core identity, no self-love. Just a hollow space that only feels full when someone else is looking. That's why he can't stop performing. That's why he can't stop chasing. That's why rejection doesn't just hurt, it destroys. The lie at the center of the narcissist is that he believes he's powerful. But power doesn't beg for attention. Power doesn't crumble under criticism. Power doesn't need mirrors. And until he sees that, he'll remain trapped inside the very prison he built to protect himself. You react to life. The Machiavellian designs it. While most men respond to circumstances, he creates them. While they scramble to adapt, he's already 3 moves ahead. This isn't luck. This isn't intelligence. This is a completely different operating system. The Machiavellian doesn't see the world as it is. He sees it as a game board. People aren't individuals with emotions and complexity. They're pieces, resources, variables in an equation he's solving for control. He doesn't act on impulse. He doesn't chase validation. He calculates outcomes, manipulates perception, and positions himself to win before anyone realizes the game has started. The blueprint begins with detachment. Emotion clouds judgment. Approval weakens strategy. Fairness is a liability. So the Machiavellian strips away everything that makes most men predictable. He doesn't care if you like him. He cares if you're useful. He doesn't need respect. He needs obedience. And obedience doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being necessary. The Machiavellian makes himself indispensable. He controls resources, information, access. He positions himself as the gatekeeper. And once you need him, he owns you. Not through force, not through charisma, through dependency. Because dependency is the most reliable form of power. Most men think manipulation is obvious. They think it's lying, cheating, backstabbing. But those are amateur tactics. The Machiavellian doesn't lie. He shapes truth. He doesn't cheat. He rewrites the rules in his favor. He doesn't backstab. He removes obstacles so cleanly that no one realizes they've been eliminated. His manipulation isn't loud. It's surgical. He plants ideas and lets you think they're yours. He creates conflicts and positions himself as the solution. He gives you small victories to keep you loyal while taking everything that matters, and you thank him for it. Because you never saw the blueprint. You only saw the outcome. Here's what separates the Machiavellian from everyone else. He doesn't wait for opportunity. He manufactures it. When other men complain about unfair circumstances, he's already exploiting them. When they hesitate because of morality, he's making the move they're too afraid to make. The Machiavellian doesn't believe in fairness. He believes in consequence. If a strategy works, it's justified. If a manipulation succeeds, it was necessary. He doesn't lose sleep over ethics. He loses sleep over inefficiency, and that ruthlessness makes him dangerous. Because while you're debating whether something is right, he's already done it. While you're worried about how you'll be perceived, he's controlling the perception itself. The Machiavellian's greatest weapon isn't intelligence, it's patience. He doesn't rush, he doesn't panic. He sets traps years in advance and waits for you to walk into them. He plants seeds of distrust, creates subtle dependencies, positions himself as irreplaceable, and then he waits. Because power isn't about dominating in the moment. It's about structuring reality so that domination becomes inevitable. Most men chase immediate results. The Machiavellian builds systems, and systems outlast effort. Systems outlast emotion. Systems create control that doesn't require force. You don't even realize you're trapped until it's too late to escape. And by then, he's already moved on to the next game. He doesn't want love. He doesn't want admiration. He wants obedience. That's the core difference between the Machiavellian and everyone else. The narcissist craves your eyes on him. The psychopath craves your fear. But the Machiavellian craves your compliance. He doesn't need you to like him. He needs you to depend on him. He doesn't need you to respect him. He needs you to need him. And once you need him, your autonomy is gone. You think you're making choices, but you're executing his design. You think you're free, but you're operating inside a structure he built. That's his power, not force, not charm, control through architecture. The Machiavellian operates from a place of cold pragmatism. Emotion is a tool, not a compass. If being kind serves his goal, he's kind. If being ruthless serves his goal, he's ruthless. He has no attachment to methods, only outcomes. This makes him unpredictable to people who operate emotionally. They expect consistency. They expect fairness. They expect some baseline of morality. But the Machiavellian doesn't subscribe to those frameworks. He subscribes to one principle. Does it work? If yes, he does it. If no, he discards it. Morality is for people who can afford to lose. The Machiavellian can't afford to lose, so he doesn't play by rules that weaken him. Most people mistake the Machiavellian for a narcissist because both seek power, but their motivations are different. The narcissist wants power to feed his ego. The Machiavellian wants power to eliminate uncertainty. He doesn't trust the world to operate in his favor, so he builds systems that guarantee it. He doesn't believe people will act in his interest, so he creates incentives that force them to. He doesn't hope for loyalty. He engineers dependency. And dependency is stronger than loyalty. Loyalty can break. Dependency can't. If you rely on him for something critical, money, information, access, survival, you'll stay. Not because you want to, because you have to. And that's exactly how he wants it. Here's what makes the Machiavellian dangerous. He doesn't need you to know he's in control. In fact, he prefers you don't. The best manipulation is invisible. You think you made the decision. You think you chose the path. But he designed the options. He framed the problem. He eliminated the alternatives. You were never free. You just felt free. And that illusion is more powerful than force. Because force creates resistance. Illusion creates compliance. The Machiavellian doesn't drag you into his agenda. He makes you walk into it willingly. And by the time you realize what happened, it's too late to reverse. The structure is already built. The trap is already closed. The Machiavellian doesn't fear rejection the way the narcissist does. He doesn't fear emotion the way the psychopath does. He fears irrelevance. He fears losing control. He fears a world where his influence doesn't matter. So he positions himself at the center of every system he touches. He becomes the connector, the decision maker, the gatekeeper, not through loudness, through necessity. People come to him because they need him, not because they like him. And he's fine with that. Because respect without power is worthless. Admiration without control is meaningless. He doesn't care how you feel about him. He cares that you can't function without him. And once that's true, he owns you. Quietly. Completely, without ever raising his voice. There's a point where strategy dies, where calculation becomes irrelevant, where the chessboard burns and all that's left is raw force. That's where the psychopath is born, not from weakness, not from emotion, from the collapse of structure. The narcissist needs mirrors, the Machiavellian needs systems. But the psychopath needs nothing. He doesn't build dependency. He doesn't chase approval. He doesn't manipulate perception. He simply takes. And if something stands in his way, he removes it. Not with anger, not with hesitation, with the same detachment you'd use to remove a piece of furniture blocking a door. Obstacle, solution, done. The psychopath emerges when survival strips away everything soft. when empathy becomes a liability, when guilt becomes a weakness. Most people are conditioned to feel consequences emotionally. They hurt someone, they feel guilt. They take something, they feel shame. They destroy something, they feel remorse. But the psychopath doesn't have that wiring, or he learned to shut it off. Either way, the result is the same. Actions without emotional consequence. He can lie to your face and sleep perfectly. He can betray you without a second thought. He can watch you fall apart and feel nothing. Not because he's evil, because he's operating from a different psychological framework, one where survival overrides everything else. This type doesn't appear randomly. It's forged, sometimes by trauma, sometimes by environment, sometimes by choice. I've seen men turn into this after being burned too many times by trust, after watching empathy get weaponized against them, after realizing that fairness is a myth and only power matters. They didn't start cold. They became cold because warmth got them hurt, because vulnerability got them exploited, because caring made them weak. So they killed it, not the other person, the part of themselves that could be hurt. And once that part dies, you're left with something functional but hollow, a machine that looks human but operates on pure logic. No attachment, no remorse, no fear. The psychopath doesn't fear consequences the way others do. He calculates risk, but he doesn't feel dread. He doesn't lose sleep over potential outcomes. He doesn't second-guess his decisions based on morality. If the benefit outweighs the risk, he acts. If it doesn't, he waits. But waiting isn't hesitation. It's patience. The psychopath doesn't rush because he's not driven by emotion. He's driven by result. And results don't care about your feelings. They don't care about fairness. They don't care about who gets hurt. Results are binary. You win or you lose, and the psychopath is built to win. Not because he's smarter, because he's willing to do what others won't. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Chaos doesn't scare the psychopath. It empowers him. When systems collapse, the Machiavellian scrambles to rebuild structure. When mirrors shatter, the narcissist panics. But the psychopath thrives, because chaos removes rules, and rules are what protect the weak. In chaos, empathy is a disadvantage. Guilt is a chain. Fear is a liability. The psychopath has none of these. So while everyone else is paralyzed by uncertainty, he's moving, taking, dominating. Not because he's cruel, because he's unencumbered. And in a world without boundaries, the unencumbered always win. That's not philosophy. That's raw psychology. And it's the third face of power most men refuse to see. No empathy, no guilt, no fear. That's not a metaphor. It's a psychological reality. The psychopath doesn't experience emotion the way you do. He understands it intellectually. He can mimic it when necessary, but he doesn't feel it. When you describe heartbreak, he hears words. When you explain guilt, he sees weakness. When you talk about fear of consequence, he calculates probability. There's no internal alarm system telling him to stop. No voice whispering that something is wrong. No emotional anchor keeping him tethered to morality. He operates in a space beyond right and wrong, a space where only results matter. And that makes him the most dangerous type of all. Empathy is what keeps most people in line. It's the invisible chain that prevents cruelty. You don't hurt someone because you imagine their pain. You don't betray someone because you feel the weight of broken trust. You don't destroy someone because guilt would eat you alive. But the psychopath has no chain. He can do all of those things without internal resistance. Not because he enjoys suffering. He's not sadistic. He's indifferent. Your pain doesn't register as something meaningful. It's just data, a variable in an equation. If hurting you serves his goal, he does it. If sparing you serves his goal, he spares you. But the decision has nothing to do with you. It has to do with utility. And utility doesn't care about your humanity. Guilt is the emotion that forces people to self-correct. You make a mistake, you feel bad, you adjust. But the psychopath doesn't self-correct based on emotion. He self-corrects based on outcome. If a strategy failed, he changes it. Not because he feels remorse, because it didn't work. This makes him incredibly efficient. He doesn't waste time on regret. He doesn't spiral into self-blame. He doesn't carry emotional baggage. He assesses. He adapts. He moves forward. Most people are haunted by their past actions. The psychopath isn't, because haunting requires attachment. And he's not attached to anything. Not to people. Not to outcomes. Not even to his own identity. He's a function, a mechanism, a tool optimized for survival and dominance. Fear is supposed to protect you. It's the brake that stops you from walking into danger. But the psychopath's brake is broken, or more accurately, recalibrated. He doesn't feel fear the way you do. He feels excitement. Risk activates him. Threat energizes him. Where most men freeze or flee, he advances, not out of courage. Courage requires overcoming fear. The psychopath doesn't have fear to overcome. He has calculation, and if the calculation says the risk is worth it, he takes it, without hesitation, without doubt, without the emotional friction that slows everyone else down. That's his advantage. While you're debating internally, he's already moved. While you're weighing morality, he's secured the outcome. Here's what makes the psychopath untouchable. You can't manipulate him emotionally. The narcissist can be controlled through approval. The Machiavellian can be outmaneuvered through strategy. But the psychopath, he has no emotional buttons to press. Guilt doesn't work. Shame doesn't work. Fear doesn't work. He doesn't care what you think of him. He doesn't care if you hate him. He doesn't care if you try to destroy him. He only cares about one thing. Does he win? And if winning requires becoming a monster in your eyes, he becomes a monster. Without apology, without explanation, without looking back. Because to him, morality is just another cage, and he's the only one who's truly free. You're not just one archetype, you're all three. The narcissist lives in you every time you chase approval. The Machiavellian lives in you every time you calculate control. The psychopath lives in you every time you detach from consequence. These aren't separate personalities, they're survival mechanisms. And depending on the situation, one of them takes the wheel. You don't choose it consciously. Your psychology chooses it for you based on what the moment demands. Rejection activates the narcissist. Threat activates the Machiavellian. Chaos activates the psychopath. And most men spend their entire lives unaware of which shadow is driving them at any given moment. The narcissist's hunger is approval. He needs to be seen, valued, admired. Without external validation, he feels invisible. So he performs. He adapts his personality to fit the room. He mirrors whoever he's with to earn their respect. He builds an identity based on what others reward. And when the rewards stop, he collapses. This isn't weakness, it's wiring. The narcissist operates from a psychological framework that says, "My worth is determined by how others see me." And that framework dominates when you're in environments where status matters, where reputation is currency, where being forgotten feels like death. You've felt this. Every time you edited yourself to fit in, every time you chased someone's opinion, every time rejection shattered your confidence. That was the narcissist speaking. The Machiavellian's hunger is control. He doesn't need admiration. He needs leverage. He doesn't need love. He needs dependency. His psychology operates from the belief that people are variables, not individuals. And variables can be managed, positioned, optimized. So he builds systems. He creates structures where he's indispensable. He manipulates perception so subtly that you think you're making your own choices, but you're not. You're operating inside his design. This shadow activates when trust feels dangerous, when vulnerability gets punished, when fairness becomes a liability. You felt this too. Every time you withheld truth to maintain an advantage, every time you positioned yourself strategically in a relationship, every time you calculated 3 moves ahead. That was the Machiavellian at work. The psychopath's hunger is absolute power. Not power through approval, not power through strategy, power through dominance, raw, unfiltered, consequence-free force. The psychopath doesn't negotiate, he doesn't manipulate, he takes. And if something resists, he destroys it. This shadow doesn't emerge in normal circumstances. It emerges when survival is threatened, when rules no longer protect you, when empathy becomes a weakness that gets you killed. You felt this in moments of rage, in moments where morality dissolved and all that mattered was winning, in moments where you would have done anything to remove an obstacle. That was the psychopath. And if you're honest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the truth most men avoid. None of these shadows are evil. They're tools. The narcissist's need for approval builds charisma. The Machiavellian's need for control builds empires. The psychopath's need for dominance builds survival. But tools can be used or misused. And most men misuse them because they don't even know they're there. They react from the shadow without awareness. They let the narcissist chase validation from people who don't matter. They let the Machiavellian manipulate relationships into transactional prisons. They let the psychopath destroy connections in moments of unchecked rage. The shadows aren't the problem. Unconsciousness is. Because when you're unconscious, the shadow owns you. And when the shadow owns you, you're not living your life. You're living its script. The narcissist is predictable. The Machiavellian is calculable. The psychopath is identifiable. But the awakened man, he's none of these and all of these. He sees his own shadow. He knows which archetype activates under pressure. And instead of being controlled by it, he commands it. He uses the narcissist's charisma without needing approval. He uses the Machiavellian strategy without becoming cold. He uses the psychopath's detachment without losing his humanity. This isn't balance. Balance is weakness pretending to be wisdom. This is mastery, the ability to access power without being enslaved by it. And that makes him more dangerous than any single archetype could ever be. Most men operate from unconscious patterns. They react, they justify, they repeat the same cycles and wonder why their results never change. But the awakened man operates differently. He observes himself. He sees the moment the narcissist in him reaches for validation. He sees the moment the Machiavellian in him starts calculating manipulation. He sees the moment the psychopath in him detaches from consequence. And instead of being swept into those patterns, he chooses, not based on emotion, not based on survival instinct, based on what serves his actual goal. That's power. Not the power to dominate others, the power to dominate yourself. And self-dominance is the only dominance that lasts. Here's what separates the awakened man from everyone else. He doesn't fear his darkness. The narcissist runs from his emptiness. The Machiavellian hides his coldness. The psychopath denies his hollowness. But the awakened man stares directly into his shadow and says, "I see you, and I'm in control." He doesn't pretend he's above manipulation. He knows he's capable of it. He doesn't pretend he's beyond cruelty. He knows it's inside him. He doesn't pretend he's free from the need for approval. He knows the narcissist whispers in moments of rejection. But knowing is power, because once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. And interruption is the beginning of freedom. The awakened man doesn't need to prove anything. Not to you, not to himself. He doesn't chase respect because his respect comes from within. He doesn't manipulate because he doesn't need control over you to feel secure. He doesn't detach because detachment isn't strength. It's avoidance. He engages fully. He feels deeply. But he's not ruled by feeling. He acts strategically, but strategy serves his values, not his ego. He can be ruthless when necessary. But ruthlessness is a tool, not an identity. This is what makes him untouchable. You can't manipulate him with approval. You can't outmaneuver him with strategy. You can't intimidate him with force, because he's already faced the worst version of himself and won. Most men will never reach this level, not because they lack potential, because they lack honesty. They refuse to see their own shadows. They refuse to admit they're capable of cruelty, manipulation, and emptiness. They cling to the belief that they're good, balanced, rational. But that belief is the cage. The awakened man doesn't believe he's good. He knows he's dangerous, and because he knows it, he controls it. He doesn't unleash the narcissist, the Machiavellian, or the psychopath recklessly. He deploys them with precision. When approval serves a purpose, he uses charisma. When strategy is required, he calculates without hesitation. When dominance is necessary, he acts without remorse. But none of these control him. He controls them, and that's the final evolution, not the absence of shadow, the sovereignty over it. You've seen the three faces now: the narcissist who needs to be loved, the Machiavellian who needs to control, the psychopath who needs nothing. And you've seen the truth. All three live inside you. The question was never which one you are. The question is, which one commands you when pressure hits? Most men will walk away from this and forget. They'll go back to reacting, justifying, repeating the same unconscious patterns. But you're not most men, because you're still here. And that means something in you knows this matters. The shadow doesn't disappear because you saw it. It gets stronger, more refined, more dangerous, but only if you let it operate without supervision. The awakened man doesn't kill his darkness. He weaponizes it. He uses the narcissist's hunger without being enslaved by approval. He uses the Machiavellian strategy without becoming hollow. He uses the psychopath's detachment without losing his humanity. That's mastery, that's power, and power doesn't beg for recognition. It simply is. You want the next level? Watch the ruthless aura that forces obedience. Machiavelli's code, next. No hesitation, no delay. Click it now. And when you're done, write this in the comments. I see my shadow, not because I need you to, because you need to declare it. Speak it into existence. Own it. That's the first act of dominance over yourself. The triad is complete. The mirror is shattered. What you do next defines everything.